he finished with 33 points, 5 assists, 12 for 18 field goals, of which 3 out of 6 were.
I'm losing your audio. We've lost JD's audio here.
You don't have my audio.
Hold on. Say something.
Something.
No.
Wow.
All right. Exhibition, having a little technical difficulties. Jay, try leave it and come back. Oh, we can hear you now. We can hear you.
Okay, we've been having trouble with our Wi-Fi all day here. So.
Yeah, we're having some Wi-Fi trouble. Well, we're going to start over. We're live. We're back. It's good to have Duke basketball back. It's Jack. There's JD. It's the first Duke game back. It's fun to be back with you all. We're going to get to the chat before we close out of here. It's just good to have Duke basketball back. It was fun to watch. It's good to get a good look at the guys in a competitive exhibition game, certainly the first half. And let's jump into it. So, what did you think of Cameron Boozer?
Cameron the Court Boozer, living up to his first name. He dominated that court one end to the other. There's every reason to understand now why, having watched him in his first exhibition game at Duke, why everyone is so excited to have him at Duke. He is the next generation in that continuing lineage that goes back to Zion, all different. Zion, Paolo, actually going all the way back to Jason. Jason Tatum.
Wait.
Even further?
Jabari Parker is the first one. Jabari Parker is the first one that I think of. And these one-and-done forwards who can do almost anything. That's where I think it starts.
6'8", 240, 250. I mean, he finished with 33 points, 5 assists, and 3 for 6 from three-point range. So lived up to all the hype as far as I'm concerned. That guy will get an A+ for his first game at Cameron.
Yeah, typically at the, midpoint of our post-game shows, I give out my medals, right? My bronze, silver, and gold for the game. I don't think anybody would be surprised that Cameron Boozer gets the gold medal for today. I think we can get that out the way. We'll get to the silver and bronze later, but I was waiting. I said in the pregame show, I was really excited to get the first look at Cameron Boozer. And he comes out, and his first bucket is an and one dunk. It's a good way to get it started. Then he hits a three. He was just super efficient. He rebounded well. He found his teammates. There were a couple of turnovers, but honestly, who cares? He had, what did he finish with, 33 points?
33.
He was phenomenal. He was just phenomenal, and it's going to be fun to watch. And I think the biggest question moving forward is who are going to be the guys that help Cameron Boozer consistently, because I think there are two guys who I think were in contention tonight, Isaiah Evans and Nicholas Hamenia. And Evans started off hot, hit a couple of threes early. Evans attempted 4 threes in the first 3 minutes. He actually slowed down.
He was 2 for 4 in the very 3 minutes.
Yes. And the guy has no conscience. But what I loved the most from Evans was the play in the second half where Duke, after a 6-0 personal run by Cameron Boozer to stretch the lead to 54-48, there was a couple plays later where Isaiah Evans tracked down a UCF player and he blocked the shot. And then he got it, and what I was really surprised. I thought he had a pull-up three, and he didn't take it. He drove all the way to the rim, had a contact finish layup, and that was a really impressive sequence for Isaiah Evans as he starts his sophomore campaign for the Blue Devils.
I think that was his second one of the game that he drove to the basket. And he's added that dimension. So everyone thinks of him as, with good reason, I'm going to shoot 3-pointers from anywhere. But if guys start coming out on him, he's now got this drive to the basket that he showed off twice tonight. Great sign.
Great sign for him. And Homenia, he missed, I think it was his first 4 shots, but it didn't matter to me. I liked the way he played. He was aggressive. He was attacking the rim, going downhill. Defensively, he was competing. I thought he had a really good showing for his first game as a Blue Devil. And I want to double check this. He ended up tied with Cameron Boozer for the most minutes played for any Duke player today. He finished with 14 points, 7 boards, a block, and a steal. Did most of his damage from the free throw line. 9 of 12. That's a lot of free throws for somebody to draw, especially in their first collegiate game, or exhibition, I should say.
Well, and I love the idea that the announcers said that John Shire referred to him as psycho. And I'm not certain, and they said, I'm not certain, is that a new term? Is that a good term? What does it mean? Is it a term of endearment? I just took it as meaning that he has a physicality about him and a aggressiveness that is going to be a welcome addition to the Duke lineup.
The guy who I heard use that term a few years ago in terms of like basketball was actually a Blue Devil himself in JJ Redick. He used to say it on his podcast back when we used to be able to hear from JJ on a consistent basis. And he would refer to some players as, they're a psycho, but it's a great, I look at it as like, they're super competitive. They're going to do whatever it takes to win, whether that's, they're going to spend extra hours in practice, film study, etc. Like they're just all about basketball. And I think we saw some of that today with Homenia in just terms of his body language on the court, his ability to just kind of give energy to the team, which I think was important for Duke today, because there were moments in this game where it looked a little bit dicey, especially towards the end of the first half. And I think a lot of that we should give credit to Jordan Burks, who had, unfortunately, it doesn't count for him. It won't be an official career high, but he had a career high, unofficial career high, I guess would be the way to say this, in the first half when he had 18 points and couldn't miss a shot. And was the difference between UCF being down 10 to 15 points to where it was a 1-point game at the half.
And that is that seems to be the story of this game at the 10,000 foot level, that it was 40-39 at half, and it finished 96-71. So Duke scored 56 points in the second half, and
32.
I
got 56, the stats.
32. Yeah. I mean, I was just doing some quick look at my note there. I mean, 56 points, and that came from a pretty wide variety of players. And it's going to happen many times this year where there's one player that all of a sudden has his career game against Duke. And, but for that, this would have been, as you said, tack on another 15 points or something, and Duke would have won by 40 or something. But, I felt really good about the second half. It's a 1-point game. So once again, what did Shire say in the locker room?
He's kind of developed a little bit of a track record of doing of having good halftime adjustments. I thought he was pretty good at that last year, and that there's a big difference between Duke in the first half and the second half, and I think some of that was the guard play because the Blue Devils, look, let's address the elephant in the room. Caleb Foster and Caden Boozer. I think there's a lot of hope for both guys coming into this season. Caleb Foster, a lot of hope that this would be his breakthrough junior season, that he'd give the Blue Devils a consistent guard option at the point. And for Caden Boozer to be a playmaking guard, to be able to run the offense, and there's a lot of buzz about him too. And I felt like neither guy played well in the first half. I thought Caleb Foster was pretty lucky to not end up with a turnover. There were a few near turnovers for him. And I didn't think Caden Boozer was very steady. I thought he gave up a couple of buckets defensively. But I felt like both played better in the second half. Caden Boozer especially so. I thought he was able to get guys open shots. He finished with 5 assists and 9 points. For Foster, I think it was more so the last 10 minutes of the game where I thought he looked better. He did finish with, he hit the 1-3. He had 4 assists, 7 rebounds. 7 rebounds is really good, but you do want your point guard to be, just feel a little bit more like a stabilizer on the court, and you just didn't get that from your junior guard, especially in the first half for the Blue Devils.
Well, so among my keys to the game coming in is Cameron Boozer going to be Cameron Boozer? We're going to put a check mark and just say, no question that this guy is the real deal. And then number 2 was the point guard position is Caleb Foster's to lose. He's got it. And that first half, I kept looking and saying, I don't see the maturation that I expected, having had himself removed as the point guard for Sion James, having now had the summer to say, what did that feel like? And knowing that I am going to be given the opportunity right here in a preseason game to show that I can run the team, and I did not feel that way at all. So I think that Caden Boozer, as he settles in, has a really good shot at eventually becoming the starting point guard. Now, one game, one preseason chance for Foster, but so far, I'm going to give the slight nod to Caden eventually teaming up with his brother. And then there's even more electricity. They know where each other is. And, Caleb's going to have to step it up if he wants to be the starting point guard.
Yep. And he's got a few more opportunities to do so, I would say. Last year, what was it, eight games or so? First 7-8 games before they made the switch in the Auburn game at home, where he actually did have a good game in that one coming off the bench, but that was the change that the Blue Devils needed. Now, we've got 3 more guys. If my math is correct, we've done Cameron Boozer, we've done Isaiah Evans and Himenia, and we did Caden Boozer and Caleb Foster. So we got 3 more guys to get to before I get to the medals, and then we'll hit the chat. So let's talk about the Paul VI guys, the sophomores who came back, Patrick Gangba and Darren Harris. You pick. Who do you want to start with here?
I think it's going to be easier to break down Darren Harris, because I think Darren is limited time showing that he may have graduated and is stepping up and has an opportunity to be a player that gets 20 minutes a game and makes a major contribution. So I am higher on Darren Harris's maturation, and I'll leave that's not a comparison to Patrick Onder. Completely different, but I'm higher on his progression than I am on Caleb Foster.
Right. And Harris, statistically tonight, he played 19 minutes. He had 11 points, 1 of 3 from 3. He also had 6 rebounds and 2 assists. And in the assists, he had a couple of nice passes towards the end of the second half, which kind of continued what I noticed in Countdown, where he had a nice like feel pass in like semi-transition. He had a real good showing tonight. I almost said today. I don't know why I've lost all track of time all of a sudden here. But I thought
it's been a long day.
It has been a long day. I thought he looked good, and Gangba, I felt like had moments. I didn't think as a team we did a good job of getting him the ball in situations where he could score, and I think that goes back to the guard play. And I felt like a lot of times as a big, you are dependent on your guards, and like last year's team did a tremendous job. It didn't start off this way. It took time, but did a tremendous job once they figured it out of, oh, Malawach, let's just throw the ball anywhere above the rim. We can use this alley-oop. And Gangba can do that as well. But with Gangba, his versatility offensively, they've got to do a better job of getting him involved in the game offensively, and I think that will help. And some of it is a little bit on him in terms of just being a little bit more assertive and aggressive with positioning himself. But the one thing you mentioned in the preview was Gangba's got to, especially with Malik out, getting him in condition. And he played 23 minutes tonight. Last year, the most he played was 21 minutes against Wake Forest. So this was the most minutes he's played in a Duke uniform. I think we got to give him time, especially as Malik Brown is out, to kind of get accustomed to playing more minutes and give him the kind of the benefit of the doubt. But I think he's going to be just fine.
I think the most important thing for him, well, two things. One that you said, I think of the things you mentioned, the most important things to me are, one, they've got to get the ball to him from above his waist. A bounce pass to him eventually will be fine with his ability to move to the basket. But if you give him a bounce pass and 3 guys are there on him, how does he bring the ball up at 6'11"? All right, so that's one. And 2 is the minutes. And to right out of the gate, give him 20 plus minutes and have no player who could spell him at center, though you might argue Boozer, just sheer size can and will play center until we know what Malik Brown's status is.
Yes.
And, with that, Jack, well, there were a couple of other players that got in, but I think we should go to, Malik Brown sitting on the bench and
one more guy before we get to that. And by the way, like this video, subscribe to the channel, drop your comments in the chat. I see a bunch of you out there. We're going to get to them in just a couple minutes. Really appreciate all the support. Sebastian Wilkins, I want to make sure we got to him because he was the eighth guy, and I expect him to be the 10th guy in the rotation. He did get a steal, and then he fluffed his first layup, and that was his only minutes of the first half. And we know, for those of you who don't know, I should say, Sebastian Wilkins is a guy who's wanted to come to Duke since he was in middle school. They've got the picture of him in Cameron when he was in middle school, so I'm sure he was so nervous, coming into that game because he'd been waiting for this moment for 5-6 years. So I felt really good for him to hit the 3 in the second half, and then get the dunk in transition off another steal. He's got good size at 6'8", and especially with, as we'll get to in just a minute here, with Brown and Sarr out for who knows how long, especially with the Duke Mafia here. It's going to be important that Wilkins is able to give them some spot minutes early on because they only go 8 deep, really, right now.
I think you mean the Duke Kremlin.
That too. So
that the information coming out is we were both surprised that we knew ahead of time, like an hour that they weren't going to play, or this afternoon we knew they weren't going to play, but that was surprising.
Yes, I noticed the tweet from John Rothstein after the game started. That was about 2 hours before the game, and I said, "Look, for Duke, that's pretty good. The fact that they put that information out there, and maybe it was because it was an exhibition game. They're a little bit more
Loose.
Yeah, a little bit more loose. But so he reported Malik Brown's been out with a knee injury. That's why he didn't play in Countdown. Dame Sarr did play in Countdown, so now he's got an oblique injury. I'm hoping that's they're just being cautious, and they didn't want him that to get worse. If they don't play Sunday in the next exhibition game, which will be against Tennessee at Tennessee, I do start to get a bit worried. There is some time before the season. There's about 2 weeks. There is 2 weeks, I should say, until the season starts. So there is time for both those guys to get healthy, but without a timetable, it is hard to be super optimistic about them coming back soon if we don't see them in the Tennessee exhibition or at least hear something positive, from somebody.
Well, the other way to look at it is there's always the approach that depending on the nature of the injuries, they may not, they could always not bring them back to the start of ACC play. And, that won't be for a while.
That would be a very long time. I certainly hope that is not the case. All right. Before we go to the chat, I got to do the medals. So the medals for today or tonight. Gold, we already discussed. Cameron Boozer. The guy's phenomenal. What more is there to say? It's already, I think it's going to be like this for a bit. Silver, I'm going to go with Isaiah Evans. I'm going to go with Isaiah Evans. It was a tough one. The reason I'm going with Evans, I felt like the threes early were important for Duke to just get off to a good start. And then that sequence in the second half where he gets the block and then he drives for the bucket. But it's really close with bronze, which is Nick Hamenia, who had a really good debut, exhibition, aggressive. We talked about aggressive, going to the basket, drawing a lot of fouls, and then competing defensively. I think you could make the argument, and I'm going to make it right now, he had a more complete game, and Evans had better moments in the game. And so I think you could definitely say Hamenia deserves a silver, and I really wouldn't argue with you too much on that one. Any comments on that, JD, before I go to the chat?
There'll be plenty of time for you and I to fight over medals, so I'd rather listen or hear from the chat.
All right. With that being said, let's go to chat. So we've got our good friend Lawrence Freeman is back.
Woohoo! Hello, Lawrence. Good to have you back.
Good to have you back, Lawrence. Lawrence says it's not great that our point guard's best attribute is his rebounding. Yes. I was thinking. I saw that comment. I was thinking of it when we were going through the guards. It is a very good point, Lawrence. Really hoping that Foster can pick things up, in the next exhibition game, which is going to be, if UCF was a tough test for him, I think Tennessee is going to be really challenging, but I'm hoping for the best. Joe M is back.
Joe M.
Nice to see you too, Joe. Yeah, nice to see you too, Joe. And then Laura Markle is back. Yes.
It's like Jeopardy, our returning champions. This
Yes.
is great.
Let's see. Laura says, here's a question for you. Laura says, could Shire move Caleb off the ball like he did Proctor? And I'll say this before I let you go, JD. I did notice late in the second half, I felt like Foster looked a little bit more comfortable on the court when he was playing next to Caden Boozer. But I don't know how often they're going to have opportunities like that to really do that because of the strength of this Duke team. Harris and Evans are going to play a lot at the shooting guard spot. So it's a little bit challenging to get a ton of minutes for the two of them together.
It's a nice thought to think that
Yes.
is a way to work them both in together. And if, to Lawrence Friedman's point, there is some strength to Caleb Foster's rebounding, and didn't Caden finish with 4 assists or
5 assists?
5 assists? So it could be, but then this is where we talked about in an earlier video the idea of playing 3 guards. And if the opportunity presents itself, you could actually add to that either Harris or Quick Draw.
Evans. Yeah. I could see both happening for sure.
But there's so many alternatives here, especially while Malik Brown is injured, because it means that you have to move Cameron Boozer into the center spot. There's no one else who can play there. So if that happens, well, we haven't seen Dame Sarr yet. And so, what does it mean to have him and Humeni alongside of Boozer?
Yes.
I mean, that is one aggressive, but was it Tennessee that you were saying, or Texas that you were saying right away? There's there's an example of a team.
Both are going to be big teams.
Big teams, and
yes.
I don't know if you can go 6-8 across.
Well, I think you can get away with it. There's a lineup for Duke, like I mentioned early on, that you can get fun and have a bunch of 6'8" guys out there. And certainly there's going to be times when you can get Dame Sarr, Hamenia, and Cameron Boozer out there and play Malik Brown or Gangba. But I also think some of that is going to be dependent on not dependent, but I think Darren Harris and Evans look like two of our better players tonight, certainly. And those guys are going to have to play. So I don't think there's going to be as much opportunity for that. But I think it's a really good thought by Laura to see if that could get Foster going a little bit. All right, let's move on because we've got a bunch of people in the chat. This is awesome. Shout out to you guys. Malik Parker with a few here. Gangba was very disappointing. Need Malik Brown back ASAP. I got myself with a tongue twister there. I felt like we talked about this before when I was going through Gangba, that I felt like some of that was the guard play, and also because I've seen the flashes with Gangba in like last season, I'm not as worried about it. If this becomes a trend, then yes, I'll be more concerned. But for now, I'm gonna kind of let this one go. As it wasn't a good game for Gangba offensively, certainly, but I expect him to play better based off of what we've seen in the past.
But to the point of the comment, if tonight was the only game you watched,
yeah,
then you might have been a little disappointed in Gangba.
Yes.
And yeah, so get it, understand it.
Yeah, totally understandable. Joe M. I'm with your analysis about not seeing Foster's development over the offseason. It seemed like he was doing some dangerous passes. The outcome could have been a lot worse in closer games or games against stronger teams. And yeah, I agree.
100%.
He can't play like that against Texas. And certainly with the gauntlet that Duke has to start the season, the margin of error is going to be very small. The competition is going to be immense from the get-go here. So he's going to need to level up quickly.
And I talked about it earlier, in light of what happened, how he lost his starting guard position. And we both remarked that physically he looked stronger. So this was absolutely his moment to give us even 10 good minutes in that first half to show that he was in control. But it didn't happen.
It did not. Shout out Michael Joyner. Great second half for Duke. Phenomenal. We're hoping Duke is going to be that second half team and not the first half team. But we're going to have to wait and see. Malik Parker with a few more. Not a great passing team this year.
Nope.
Foster development has been disappointing to say the least. He disappeared after the MSU game his freshman year. So, a couple of things. I actually think this is going to be a decent passing team, but I think it depends on, one, does Caden Boozer end up as the starting guard? Because he's certainly the much better passer between the two guards. And I actually think getting Malik Brown's going to help a lot with that department, because Malik Brown is a fantastic passer from the high post, and Gangba is actually a good passer from the high post. You didn't see much of that tonight. But we don't have the pick and roll creators like we did last year, and so it's going to have to look different than it did last year, and that means it's going to be a lot more about player movement along with ball movement. It's not going to be so much just pick and roll and let you know who make a play, or the second guy make a play. We're not going to talk about last year's team. I'm trying really hard not to talk about
I know
last
you're
year's team.
trying really hard, but I think if you have the image of last year's, season, Sion, once they made the switch, and we were among the early ones calling for that. Sion, we had tremendous confidence in him bringing the ball up and then giving it to, all right, we're not going to, he who will not be named, as he was a point forward. So in fact, there was one pass to Cooper Flagg, and then the ball went to whatever the play was as he was guiding it from a point forward position. So the flow was, but I think, Jack, you're right that it eventually became that.
Yes, that's a very good point.
And
It
based
didn't
on
start that way.
it sure didn't start that way, especially with giving the opportunity to Caleb Foster. So let's try to be kind to them and say, let's see what happens over the course of the first 5 games.
I'm glad you reminded me of that, because I'd said that a few times and forgot about it. So, going back to last year, remember the Kentucky game where they looked great in the first half, but the second half, the offense really struggled. The Kansas game, there was certainly an offensive struggle in that one. Even the Arizona game, which they won, the offense was clunky at best for that game. It took, like, that Auburn game was really the first time where they had, against a good team, an offensive explosion. But a lot of that was Isaiah Evans going nuclear in the first half, and then that let other guys pick up the slack in the second half. But
change the whole game.
Yes.
An outburst from one player, which actually, when you think about it, Burks kept them to a 1-point game, and you're like going, is he going to keep this up the whole game?
Yeah. I still can't believe he did that. But as you said, that's what happens. Guys play against Duke, and they have career performances. I remember last year, NC State, there was a couple of guards who were going absolutely nuts that averaged 2 and 3 points a game. So that's just how it works when you're Duke. People play their best games against you. Matthew Harris says, I think Gangba has a much better ceiling than Foster. I want Caleb to prove me wrong, but Pat is going to contribute more this year. Okay.
I think I agree.
Joe M says he loved that sequence from Evans with the block shot and then getting a layup. And then He also says, maybe it was just me, but it seemed like the team stopped passing the ball to Foster in the second half before he was taken out.
Interesting observation. I didn't notice it that way, but everyone watches the TV and sees something else. And if that's what was happening, then was that a loss of confidence early on, or was it just like they weren't looking for him? Hard to say, but interesting observation.
Yeah, I'm going to be paying attention to that in the Tennessee exhibition now that you pointed that out, Joe. I did feel like I said before, when he came back in for his minutes towards the end of the second half, he looked better. Certainly did Foster. But I'm very curious about that moving forward. That is going to be something I'm going to keep my eye on. Matthew Harris. Shout out to you, Matthew Harris. He says, you have to root for Evans. I really want him to become a superstar this year. It sucks, but Foster disappoints. I can remember Foster just having dead eyes many times last year. It doesn't give you a good feeling about his development. Yeah, okay. Let me take both players. So Evans, but he's a lot of fun to root for. But I think we got to be conscious of the fact that there are going to be, I think there's just going to be major swings with Isaiah Evans' game. There's going to be a game where he hits 9 3-pointers. And then there's also going to be a game where he shoots 1 of 12 from 3. And
But I want to just push back a little bit in the sense that did we see, because he hit 2 of them, this development of not just the 3, which we know he is, he'll shoot a 3 from anywhere, but the 2 drives to the basket, which were terrific slashing drives. And he's 6'6".
Yeah.
And so therefore, if he really added that as a dimension to his game, and that means that nobody can ever let him alone from 3-point range, guys coming out on him, and he can slash by him, and then he adds a drop pass, then it could be the emergence of
smooths out some of the ups and downs that I think would happen if that doesn't happen. I do think, when you look at he finished 1 for 2. So he made 1 of those layups. He got to the free throw line, though, as a result of a couple of those drives as well, which is important.
Okay.
He ended up with 4 free throws. And so I think that is going to be a really important part for Evans. Can he be a secondary playmaker? Can he find those drives when, teams close out aggressively against him? Because he's going to be really important for this Duke team to reach the ceiling, whatever that may be this season.
Well, so let's just play this out. So if he's, the incredible shooter that I think Quick Draw is from 3-point range, and if he feels like he has a chance to slash to the basket at 6'6", he could very well be the guy to dump it off to Gangba at a higher level, so that Gangba has that, nice, easy 2-point shot. Maybe it's not the slam dunk that we're used to from Mal, but it's going to be getting the ball to him high, because he will be drawing so much attention from 3-point range, driving to the basket. People will scurry there. It should be open. So
yes. No, you're fine. And then, okay, Foster. The one thing I wanted to say about Foster, I think it's important to remember, yes, the start of last season was not good, and the middle part of the season was also not good. But at the end of the season, after he had a DNP, I forget which game it was, but there was a game DNP coach's decision. And after that, there were flashes, and it was Foster's defense that was really what his calling card to the end of the season. And I left the season at the end of the year saying it was not the year Caleb Foster wanted, but he finished the season with a good attitude and a positive impact on the team when he came on the court with his defense and just energy. And I was expecting that part at the very least to carry over, and I didn't really feel that in the first half at all from Foster, that aggressiveness defensively that I really felt like he built at the end of last season. And
Jack, how tall is Burks?
6'9".
So that wouldn't work. Okay.
Yeah, that's not his matchup.
No.
All right. Let's keep moving. All right. Joe M says he would love a lineup with Pat, Malik, and Cam Boozer, and that is the lineup that I think one of our preview videos I said if Duke wants to get really big, they could throw those guys out there with Dame Sar and Hemenia, and nobody is shorter than 6'8". I don't think they'll do that, but it would be fun. I think, though, those three guys can play together, especially if Brown and Gangba have the willingness to shoot the three, which I think Gangba certainly does. With Brown, it's just confidence because we know he can hit them. He just got to play with confidence and a little bit more aggressiveness offensively this year, which I think is going to help the Duke team as a whole.
Well, you'll need, look, the floor, Cameron, he can go to one corner. You'll need one of the two to develop a three-pointer. You don't necessarily need them both, is my opinion.
And the other part to that is I don't know how much Shire is going to want to play them all together. Maybe he'll do like short stretches against specific matchups, but because those are the three guys who can play at center, he may be trying to mix and match them so that way they're fresh and they're always ready to be on the court. Because we saw tonight, without having Malik Brown, he had to try to stagger Gangba and Cameron Boozer's minutes as much as he could. Let's see. Matthew Harris says the chance for early losses for this team seems high. They feel like a February power. Yeah. Well, I would say especially with the unknown with the injuries. Without those two guys potentially, we don't know when they would come back. It's a really tough stretch of games to start the year for Duke. So with those guys, I feel differently, especially Malik Brown, because we know what he is. But we're just going to have to see what happens with them from a health standpoint. Laura Markle says Cameron Boozer scored 3 more points than AJ DeBonsa for BYU. The national freshman year race is going to be fun. Absolutely. We'll see what Darren Peterson does. How he throws it. Those are the big 3 guys. And then there's lots of other really good freshmen. The freshman class this year, I think, is outstanding across the board. And it's going to be fun to watch them. Spider Gary says, FYI, UCF is not a pushover team, ranked 82nd in Torvik rankings. Yeah, I mean, they're big. They're big. They've got size. They're a veteran team. I think all those things contributed to why that first half was as close as it was. And then the second half wasn't. And
and that's why they were 70-something and we're not.
Yeah, it showed. It showed. All right, a couple more, and then we'll get out of here. Chris Hand. Can we honestly trust Pat to defend the rim all season? That's what I'm nervous about, is defending the rim. And Chris, it's a good point, because last year it was clear. I hate to bring this up. It's really hard. Once we get to start of season, guys, there's no more, official games. No more going back to last year. But I'm doing it. We're all doing it in the chat. It's really hard not to. I understand. But the only thing I was going to say is last year there was a noticeable difference defensively when, certainly Malik Brown, but Malawach compared to Gangba. Because and it's not the reason you might suspect. It's not necessarily the rim protection where Malawach was better than Gangba, but it's the feet. Malawach's footwork gave Duke the ability to play really any kind of defense they wanted to. They could switch ball screens because Malawach could cover a lot of guards. Not every guard, but he could cover a lot of them. They could play him in drop if they wanted to protect the rim. They could play him at the level. They could do whatever they wanted to do defensively and switch things up. And then not only that, but you had a guy, we're going right into it. You had a guy like Sion James, who if you switched Malawach and James, you never felt like Sion was at a real disadvantage against the other team's big because of how strong he was. So it's just going to be very different, guys. We've got to get today and Sunday. We got to get out of our system. And by the time Duke plays Texas, we just can't compare it to last year. But in terms of the rim protection, I agree. I think that's why Malik Brown is going to be really important for Duke.
Derek Lively, the list goes on and on of that you
Mark
could
Williams.
Marky Mark. So if you make that mistake on defense, you don't worry because that guy is behind you. And right now, it's not likely that Gangba. Let's just say the jury's out, and we'll have to, because you really don't have a sense of what the front line looks like with Sarr and Malik Brown on the bench, and so I know that it compared to compared to Mal last year, where I used to always go all the way back to
Mutombo.
Yep, going no, don't come in here.
Yeah, yeah, and I think this is a good closeout here because Malik Parker says, I miss Cooper and company, and how could you not? And the one guy we didn't mention because we're here now is Khan Knipple, who I really miss. I miss that guy. He was a lot of fun. Yeah, it's all right. I feel like this is good. This is a good therapy session. We're getting it all.
It's cathartic.
Yeah, getting it all out of our system. Joe M says he thinks that DMP for Foster was against Wake Forest. And that's what I thought, Joe. I thought it, but I wasn't confident enough to say it. And so since you thought it as well, I feel like that definitely was the game for Foster. Before we get out of here, just want to say again, thanks to all you guys. This is awesome for an exhibition game to have all you guys here. We're going to do this after each and every Duke game. I'm going to do my best as well to get out clips and highlights of players in between games, so we've got something to look at, do some analysis as well. So subscribe to the channel, like this video. Go ahead.
We also have our regular Monday show.
Yes, go ahead.
On Mondays, Jack and I are going to try to look at the top 25, not go team by team, but look at the top 25 to see how other matchups may have occurred during the week that affect Duke. And that's going to be the angle that certainly I'm going to take from my portion of the show, is looking at, because, it's great to watch, number 3 play number 9. And what does it mean to Duke? And so certainly Monday nights, if there's not a Duke game on that night, we'll be. But Jack, are we recording and posting? We're not doing that live, are we?
Not for now, but we may change.
Okay.
At a certain point. But to your point, with all the non-conference games Duke has, the big non-conference games Duke has at the start of the season, it'll be good to cover some of these opponents that Duke is going to play pretty early on and see how they're doing in some of their early season matchups. So we'll be covering that every Monday. Those will drop at 8 o'clock Eastern time, so be sure to look out for those videos.
Jack, I have a quick question for you.
Yeah,
so
we're still here.
Okay, quick question. It was the 2 different polls. One had Duke initially at like 12,
yes,
11, and then the ESPN poll, AP poll comes out, and they dropped to 6. What did you think you were watching tonight?
In terms of like where they ranked?
Yes.
The first half, I thought I was watching a team that was ranked probably like 21st. And the second half, I was watching a team that looked like a top 10 team.
A top 10 team.
But
and certainly could grow into that solid feeling. Because like we watched St. John's last night and we were like going,
that was Towson. That's not UCF. But I think the one caveat I was going to give is haven't had a chance to watch everybody. So it's hard to confidently say this is a top 20 team.
Too early, but just curious. Curious.
Yeah, I think it was a tale of two halves tonight. So it was fun being on here with all of you guys. We'll be back. We're going to have our preview out in a couple of days for the Tennessee exhibition game, which is going to be a big test for the Blue Devils, especially if Sarr and Brown are still out. So be on the lookout for that. I'll drop some highlights over the next couple of days. Until next time, guys, peace.